I was very lucky to have some very large assignments. I'll just give you an example. When the security scam happened, the Harshad Mehta scam, income tax, got a special rate done of not only the Harshad Mehta group of companies, but the opposing groups also. So we are lucky to be appointed for one of the audits. And I personally oversaw that particular work and gave the report to Income Tax Department. Amongst all the firms, that report was very well appreciated.
People-related skills, that's something is really missing. Whether you beat practice or you beat organizational side, I think that makes the difference.
How do you think we can improve that?
I think CA is the best commerce course not only in India but in the whole world, the Indian CA.
Hi everyone, welcome to Conversation with Kushal once again. Today we have two industry stalwarts, one who's excelled in the corporate career and one who has excelled in the practice of chartered accountancy. This entire episode is going to give you a very good gist about CA in job versus CA in practice, how much one can expect to earn after going into these fields, and most importantly, what are the exit opportunities, what are the challenges, how to tackle them. That is going to be completely there in this episode. So we have Mr. Sushil Agarwal, who's the Group CFO of Aditya Birla Group, and Mr. Nilesh Vikamsey, who has been the past President of ICAI and is a partner at KwK and Co. So thank you so much, gentlemen, for accepting my invitation. It's a huge sense of honor for me to host the two of you.
Thanks so much, Kushal, and thanks for inviting us. And I'm sure with Nilesh Bhai's experience, we'll do justice to what you have in mind.
Sure.
Thanks, Kushal, for inviting us, on a fantastic job you are doing as far as these podcasts are concerned, especially for the youngsters, to get them clarity on various avenues, various opportunities available for them. And for me, it's indeed a larger honor to be sharing this podcast with Sushil ji, whom all of us respect so much. And more importantly, just at the cusp where he's recently been appointed as a director of Grasim. So congratulations to Sushil ji on that appointment as a director of Grasim. So I think it's a double, I would say, joy to be here. And we'll be very happy if our experiences sharing benefits the audience who's listening to us. So our job will be done if they benefit out of it.
Absolutely, Nilesh. When you said the right point. Actually, the whole idea would be of this discussion is to make sure that who is listening, if they can be benefited even 5%, I think we would have at least felt that yes, we have given back to the society, or we have given back to our profession in some form.
Right. Thank you so much. It's very good to see the modesty and humility that the two of you have, and I also feel very, very privileged and honored that I am getting a chance to host the two of you. So we can start off with a quick round of introduction of the two of you so that the audience also gets to know you better. Although I know you don't need any introduction as such, but just to complete the formalities. So Sushil ji, maybe we can start off with you, and Nilesh sir, we'll go over to you.
So I think, I don't know, let me start by saying that I come from Jodhpur in Rajasthan. I did my CA incidentally from Delhi. Most of the people from Jodhpur, actually, they'll come to Bombay, and two of my chachas, they both were in Delhi, and I ended up going to Delhi, and I think post completion of my chartered accountancy, this I did from a TR Chadda and Company, which is a now 75-year-old old company, and I think this company exists even before the institute actually born. So to that extent, this company is quite old, and I must say, in all fairness, during my audit time, we had a fantastic, some of those large PSU audits and some of those big audits. So I had a good time, and moved to Bombay post my job, and this is in 1989 when I moved to Bombay. And that's the only job I've done, by the way. So I came and joined in the Grasim's project division. Grasim's project division were working on many projects. And one of the specific projects I spent a lot more time was Mangalore refinery. I think I must say, in those days, the refineries was with the government only, and there were only two refineries which were given on a joint venture basis. One was with Tata's and one was with Birla's.
This was which year?
This allotment possibly was done ahead of my joining, because I was working on that project. So I joined them in 89, possibly it was 86, 87 when the government decided that they want to privatize in some form. So they didn't really privatize full, but but they did a joint venture, and we were having our joint venture partner of HPCL, and this was 89 when I joined. There were a couple of other projects so I used to work, and as the destiny possibly was defined, a year later, almost I know in April 90, when I got a call from Mr. Birla's office, and those days Mr. Aditya Birla was the chairman of the group. And when I went to see him, typically after talking a couple of minutes about me, myself, and he ended up offering me 2 positions. He said, those days also, by the way, Aditya Birla Group is fairly known for truly Indian multinational group. And those days also we had around 7 different locations outside India where we used to operate. And so the option was either I go and join one of those offshore units, which is Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines, some of those Malaysia, and some of those places where we used to work. And or second option was to join Mr. Birla's office. And truly speaking, I think neither of these 2 options were really working with me. And I came back and I said, I'm not very excited. Project division actually gives me a little more satisfaction, and I'm happy doing what I do currently. But I ended up joining Mr. Birla's office a few months later, because I think there was another guidance, and possibly there was a reference that either of these 2 will necessarily end to pick up. And foreign, I was not very sure, although those days going outside India was very lucrative, very attractive. But I was not very fascinated to go outside India, maybe partly because of my own family compulsion, because I was the only child, all the only male family member in the family. I have 2 sisters, so somehow there was a sense of responsibility, and I didn't want to kind of go out of India. So I ended up joining Mr. Birla's office, and I spent a few years in his office. Unfortunately, untimely death of Mr. Aditya Birla, Mr. Kumar Mangalam Birla, the current chairman, he joined in October 95. And typically, when you go to chairman's office, you spend 4-5 years, and then you go back into the operating roles. And I ended up doing another stint with Mr. Kumar Mangalam Birla. So message also is that you should not remain fixated to what is being offered. Sometimes you may have to do more than what you want to do, because maybe organization wants you to do a particular role. So I did another stint with him before actually I moved into different part of financial services. By the way, we had a strong partnership with Sun Life of Canada for 4 of our financial services business: life insurance, asset management business, distribution, and stockbroking firm. Although insurance was not yet opened up, but we still had a JV with them, and as and when the law will get opened up, we'll operate that business as well. So I was part of the executive committee there. We were really kind of hands-on on various different part of financial services. I also ran a non-bank finance company, very small those days. We started insurance broking firm because we had various different part of financial services. We did had a non-life insurance company, but we had a non-life insurance brokerage firm. So I ran that also for some time before I moved into another CFO role, which is Aditya Birla Nuvo. Aditya Birla Nuvo, now that company does not exist because it got merged subsequently in Grasim, and I'll talk about a little bit of that. That company had a multiple businesses. Actually, it was a mini ABG within Aditya Birla Nuvo. So we had, I would say, financial services. We had a fashion retail company. We had Minax, which was a large BPO outsourcing setup. We had many operating manufacturing businesses, from carbon black to viscose rayon to filament and textiles. So there were multiple. So it was quite a large diversified company. I was CFO for that company and lots of experience about that company. If I got a chance to reflect some of those, I'll share. But then I moved into Grasim CFO, which was still in a context of the group, still is a diversified company, but it was not as diversified as Nuo was. So there were chemical business and viscose staple fiber business, largely these two businesses, but they had a strong large subsidiary company which is Ultratech. Grasim still owns close to 56-57% of that company, so it's a subsidiary company for Grasim. So that's the company I got into as a CFO. I did that role for many years, and Nilesh Bhai just talked about got into the Grasim's board, but I was on board when I was as a CFO for the company. Moved into group's overhaul as a CFO subsequently, and currently Aditya Birla Group, as some of you may know, that it operates out of 41 countries. We deal with almost 100 odd nationalities, and we have a revenue of over 65 billion. So it's quite a size. So you deal with various nationalities, and I will talk about in some form about why I'm underlining this 100 odd nationalities, because that's where the culture will come into play. We operate in 41 countries, so there are different regulations, and which also is important in some form for people like us. And so that's where that's my current responsibility. And I must also say, during this journey, there's one piece of extra work which I also have is advising on a sponsored level at a family level. So that's the broad career which I have. I'll stop for a minute and I'll keep jumping on these issues during our discussion.
Just to give a little bit background of me, I'll start with my childhood. Till 7th, I was more into, I would say, sports, cricket, football, hockey, just general gully cricket or building cricket. Never focused on academics. I don't know, somewhere in 8th, my parents must be observing, as Sushilji said, some, observation is always there. So they put me on a maths and science tuitions. Of course, I had some tuitions earlier, but they were all basic. So from that time, my interest in academics went up from the standard 8th. And in 10th, in those days, I scored 76%, which possibly today is 90 plus. I don't know how much it is. So got into a good college, which is Podar. 12th was 68%, which is also in those days reasonable
Very
marks.
good numbers, yeah.
And then CA entrance, excellent marks. The reason I'm giving this background is, come CA Inter, I gave only one group and I failed miserably. Less than 30 marks. Less than 30 marks in all the 4 subjects which appeared. And for 1 month I became a Devdas. CA is not for me, itna kam marks hai, ye hai, rona, dhona, whatever. So that's what happened. But maybe at the end of 30 days, I decided, what the hell, I'll show that I can do CA. That after that 1 month of remorse, that determination came, that I have to show that I can do CA. So that was a turning point, but that was not enough. More important was to see what had gone wrong. Why did I get such low marks despite having a reasonably good academic career prior to that? Introspected, found 2-3 weak spots, and that's the reason I'm highlighting. First, I was studying at home. And at home, what happens? Like, suppose you want to take a nap in the afternoon, you're studying in the morning few hours, and then you feel tired. So you sleep on a bed, and you tell your family, your mother, your sister, wake me up in half an hour, I want to get back. So generally, parents always have that, parents and family, "Arey, mera bachcha to bahut mehnat kar raha hai. He's working very hard." So I would be sleeping 1 hour, 2 hours, never realize how much time has gone by. That was number one mistake. Second, I used to that time write manual accounts for my eldest brother, who used to trade in shares. And so I used to get a kick. I used to read Economic Times. Those days, Economic Times used to carry full page of the stock market price movements, which is of course now available online. But those days, that was the only mode of seeing it. Unless you're in the market, you used to get those Bhav copies. So morning few hours, I didn't realize that. When I introspected, I used to just observe the price movements. I never used to trade. Let me be very clear. But used to get a kick of seeing how the stock movements happened. So that was another sort of, I would say, the mistake which I found like that. Analyze what went wrong. So change my track. Started going to college. I was in Pudar College. So I was staying in Vadala, just 15-20 minute walk. Used to go there, study in the classrooms over there. And so just changed the track. Then cleared intermediate, with flying colors. Same thing for final, no hiccups, cleared it reasonably well. I come from a family of chartered accountants, Khimji Korean company. Now it is called, just for correction, KKC and Associate. We abbreviated the name. And it's a family firm. So that time, before, I cleared in 1985, my father and brother were already there in the firm. It was started by my uncle. So my father, Shivji Bhai and Kamlesh were already there. I joined in 85, cleared in July 85, post my articleship. Articleship also was in the firm. That was the year when tax audit was introduced and capital market stockbrokers audit. There were two large chunk, and we were very strong in the capital market, broker audits and tax audits. So tax audits right from large corporates, trading firms, etc., manufacturing units. So became very busy with, I would say, the audits. So just because of the work pressures, I focused on audits and Kamlesh focused on tax with an oversight of my father. I wanted to do law because in practice law is helpful to study law, but because of the very heavy pressure of work at that point of time, I couldn't do that. I've been very, very lucky as far as exposure is concerned. That time, Sushilji mentioned about Aditya Birla Group. It was earlier called Indian Rayon. So large from that company, one of the, I would say, the best managed companies, if I can say so, from my experience, doing audit of other listed companies which are family owned, of PSUs, of partnership firms, of sole proprietors having large turnover, of chambers of commerce, of variety trust, charitable trust, the whole variety of work. I was lucky to have this thing, experience of that. So that was the initial, I would say, sort of a role. And around about that time, I was very lucky to have some very large assignments. I'll just give you an example. When the security scam happened, Harshad Mehta scam, income tax, got a special rate done of not only the Harshad Mehta group of companies, but the opposing groups also. So we are lucky to be appointed for one of the audits. And I personally oversaw that particular work and gave the report to income tax department. And amongst all the firms, that report was very well appreciated. The way we had dissected the findings of that particular entity, I don't name it, no disrespect to anybody, the department was very happy. So that was one large work, very happy. So just like a forensic, if you can say so, in today's time. Similarly, Central Bank of India, Reserve Bank appointed us to do the, there was a issue between the Indian rupee, USSR ruble, the Russian ruble and the US dollar. So rupee dollar was market driven, but rupee ruble was prefixed. So there was a misuse of this two particular mechanism, and we were asked to look at, the different auditors were asked for different banks. We were doing central bank. So there's another large work. Third, very large important work I want to highlight is similarly Reserve Bank, on behalf of Reserve Bank, we did the FCNRA reconciliation of British Bank of Middle East. It's a Hong Kong Bank subsidiary. 4 years of reconciliation. The FCNRA, which is...
What is FCNRA?
FCNRA is the foreign currency deposit which banks held in those times. The foreign exchange risk belonged to the government. Because India was short of the foreign exchange. So what they did was, the government said, you bring foreign currency deposits, any exchange risk will bear. So that was... so the differences were being reported to the RBI, but there was a challenge whether those differences were being reported properly. So we did a 4-year review on behalf of RBI of this bank, and that was the largest assignment of the firm at that point of time, somewhere in, I think, the 90s, and the fees were 28 lakhs, almost 8 months to a 12-month work, but very happy. They're motivating the team, a team of 8 to 12 people working, and a dirty job of reconciliation. I'll be very candid. And the most happiest part was, after we gave the report, not a single query from the central bank. It was done so meticulously. So the hard work, focus on the, and also full credit to the team. And it was done so wonderfully well. So that was another large assignment which I did. Post this, I think I want to just get into some other journey. Of course, then went into valuations, went into due diligences, the natural progression advisory work, so on and so forth, which kept on happening as the firm grew. But parallelly, what was happening is, luckily, the year I qualified, 1985, that was the year my father pushed, if I can use the word, Mr. Anand Rathi to contest the election. I think all of us have heard of Anand Rathi, one of the biggest financial services conglomerate. And the reason my father pushed him is, and Mr. Anand Rathi found gold medalist chartered accountant who was not only brilliant academically, but fantastic on interpersonal skills and fantastic in managing people. He was running industries in the Birla Group, whether it is Rajashri Cement or Birla White or so on, so number of units, Jayashree Textiles, Indian Rayon, you name it.
Okay, so he was running these.
He was
units.
part of the Aditya Birla Group that time in 1985.
Okay.
So he had evolved right from as a manager level. He had gone on to become the president, one of the top executives of the group. So very able person, and so between Shivji and N.K. Bafna of Lodha and Company, both these people pushed him. So he laughed it off. Again, for the listeners, that if you find a right person, you need to push them to do the right things.
Exactly. I think identifying. So sometimes organization or sometimes external world, they identify ability in you, and they want to take bat.
Yeah.
They want to take bets, and I think we should support those bets. And I think because you yourself may be undermining your own capabilities, and someone else can see a little extra, and which is, and those in my mind, and I keep using another very simple terminology that you have to do things differently, and that makes the difference. There are hundreds of people, thousands of people. We keep doing same accounts, same audit, maybe same taxation, and lots of stuff which is common for all of us. But someone is doing differently, and someone who is doing differently gets spotted, and which is where the different career path and all the stuff which we can talk about.
Right.
So Mr. Rathi laughed them off in the sense I am coming from industry again, originally from Jodhpur. He was in DCM in Delhi, then joined the Birla Group. He was in Calcutta in Jayashree Textiles, then came to Bombay. And said, hardly very few people know me. Who's going to vote for me? So you know how elections are fought. So the only thing Bafna ji and my dad Shivji told Rathi, you just say yes. We want good people like you to go. What is happening in the institute now also is we got fantastic set of people running the institute. But from the administrative capabilities wise and mainly HR, and I think there's a lot needs to be done. And as we speak, I think despite all the initiatives, I think that's one still weak area.
And if I can stop you, Nilesh bhai, for a minute, because I keep bothering, keep jumping. And I think, Kushal, the important piece is a loss of people-related skills. That something is really missing. Whether you beat practice or you beat organizational side, I think that makes the difference.
How do you think we can improve that?
It's more and more, we need to understand the importance of that. And I've seen in my career, I think really the differentiator is people skill side. And I can talk about the group also, and we will spend more time on that. I think to me that's really a very, very critical differentiator. And I'll not mind quoting that example, because Nilesh bhai may be aware that 12-13 years back when we acquired a US company called Novelis. It was a loss-making company, and today it generates almost $2.5 billion EBITDA. So it's a serious kind of a change of operational performance and all of that. And a lot of people, and by the way, as a group, we have done multiple acquisition, and I can count many. And I must say, in all fairness, all those acquisitions have been very, very successful. And global benchmark is only of successful acquisition of 25%. In our case, 100%. So we have done more than 50, 70 acquisition, and small. So if I count, there would be many. Yeah. But point I'm talking on Novelis and on a people side, because having acquired a loss-making large US-based company, and it was more than the size of the company which you acquired. So the company which acquired Novelis was the Hindalco, and Hindalco didn't have that kind of a size. Those days, $6.5 billion acquisition was quite a sizable acquisition. And we didn't push our guys from India to Novelis. Possibly, wherever we saw little bit of gaps, we would have kind of filled those gaps, but we didn't change the people, and we didn't change the Novelis brand. That gave them a confidence that there is no change of ownership in a relative term, and that provided them a lot more desire to kind of keep doing what was needed to get that company back to the larger profitability. So I think people can really make a huge difference. And I think any organization, whether it's a practicing side or industry organizations, consulting organization, I think people is the only. So in my definition, if there's anything which can make a greater differentiation, would be the people side. And we'll talk.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No
I'm
issues.
breaking your.
No, good. So coming back to the election mode, I was very lucky. The year I qualified, Anand Rathiji, as I told, was convinced by my dad and Bafnaji to contest the election for the interest of the profession at large and for the institute at large. And the luck was that along with him, I used to go to some of the suburbs of Bombay, including Masjid Bandar, Matunga, Chembur, Ghatkopar, door to door, meeting CAs either in their offices or in their residences. Many times we used to climb, say in Chembur, 3, 4, 5 floors, and then found out the gentleman is not there. Those addresses of Chembur, but he is in somewhere in Middle East or in US or wherever. So one thing, I saw the profession at very close quarters. The reason I'm mentioning this is, in those years I saw an office in Masjid Bandar, which was beautifully done. Otherwise, generally, including my own office, were very drab, a lot of files, brown color, this the tables and all, dingy sort of a thing, So saw a very greyish and a very lit up office in Masjid Bandar. So that impression, saw a profession at very close quarters. So that was 1985 and 1988, 2 elections along with Rathiji. I used to move out in some of the Bombay suburbs. 1991, third election, Rathiji was supposed to contest, but again, see the person's, ability. He, within his friends group, said, I will not contest because his responsibility in the Birla Group had gone up and somebody else should contest. And somebody else was my father. At the age of 63, my father was forced to contest. He was never in the political arena as such. And Rathiji, had he continued in one more term, he would have become president of the ICAI, in all probability. I'm not saying so, but sacrificing for the larger interest, that he is not able to devote time, better somebody else carry the baton if he's not. So that's the message I want to send, send to the listeners, that what is more interesting, the organization's point of view, that is important. So my father, of course, willingly accepted, I'll go there only for one term. He went there, and along with him, I could see the profession, apart from these suburbs, more closely in cities like Baroda, Surat, Nagpur, Amravati, Akola, Aurangabad, Jalgaon, Nasik, your birthplace, and Dhule. I'm just giving some examples. So again, saw the profession from very close quarters in Tier 2, Tier 3, how practices are run and all. And so Shiji Bhai was there for one term, and after he came back, he said very clearly that we keep on criticizing. The message I want to send across is, generally when we don't like something, we criticize. So he was a Gandhian, and he said, be the change you want to see in others. So of course, next term, then one of our other colleagues, R.L. Kabra, contested. He was unfortunately he was the 8 people who were to be elected. He was 9th in the reckoning. He couldn't make it. 97, this informal friends group requested Kamlesh Bhai to contest. And again, the whole background was, it was payback to the profession. And we can keep on criticizing things, but you be part of the change you want to see in others. So that was the message. And Shiji Bhai at that time said that we keep on criticizing, but let's try to make whatever little bit change we can do. And Institute is a democratic organization, and as all democracies, the change is very difficult. There's a huge bureaucracy. So unless you roll up your sleeves and do work, only then work happens. Otherwise, unlike a private organization where I think a lot of things we can do on a fast track basis, I would say the effort is 1 to 10. What effort one puts one in a private organization, it takes at least 10 more times effort to get things changed at the larger ICAI level. So Kamlesh Bhai fought the elections in 97 to almost 2006. He became vice president, president. That time also, again, seeing the profession at very close quarter, visiting offices, this, that, etc. So saw the profession closely. Come 2009, again 2006, R.L. Kabraji contested. Again, that time there were 11 people to be elected. He was 12th in he couldn't make it just by a small whisker. Then again, this informal group. I got a call on, I remember the date very well, 31st of August 2009. I remember the date because 30th August of 2009, Mr. T.N. Manoharan, whom I think you also interviewed, our respected past president, he was speaking in West End Hotel in Bombay on the Satyam scam and how they turned around the company within 6-8 months. Yeah. So there was, and one of the persons sitting next to me was my friend Atul Beda, who was already in the Central Council. And he asked me, Nilesh, there's news in the market that you're concerned. I said, I don't know. So next day I got a call from Anand Rathi that we all are foot soldiers. See, basically just to again the sum and substances within the informal group of friends, idea is not to gain anything out of the institute or with the profession, is payback and serve the profession. So with that intent, so I contested, and I think it must be a record. The electioneering was only from 3 months, my campaigning from September of 2009 till end of November, because early first week of December is the election. But thanks to the goodwill of Anand Rathi, Shivji Bhai, Kamlesh Bhai, whole friends like Sushil ji and all the others, I could make it. And the challenge, I'll tell you, again one feedback to the members here. I had Atul Bheda, who was my neighbor in Vadala, hardly 7-8 buildings away, 1 year senior to me, same college, same CA support circle in Matunga, Ghatkopar, Mulund. So wherever I used to go, sir, Atul Bhai is already there in the council, we supported last time. I said, okay, see, the world is a big ocean. So I used to just tell, okay, give me second preference. Luckily, we have preferential voting, and worked elsewhere. Rather than trying to snatch something out of, say, Atul Bhai's votes or somebody, I said, nothing doing. Just give me second, because he's a dear friend again. So there's no point. Again, there's more a message for the audience that sometimes these conflicting situations arise. World is big. Each person has a room, and we were written off. Just I'll complete. The 2 Kutchi candidates cannot win. I belong to a Kutchi Jain community. So a small Kutchi Jain community, 2 candidates cannot win, because a lot of it is more like communal and all. And I said, be that, let's fight, we'll see. So Atul Bhai he was number 8 to be elected. Myself, Sanjeev Maheshwari and Mahesh Bhai Sarda, brother of NP Sarda. We were number 9, 10 level, just few votes here and there. All 3 got into the... So work positively with a positive mindset. The world is big and you can make your room. And there's no need to cannibalize somebody else just to make your win. Sorry.
So Nilesh, I only wanted to make one more comment when he was talking. I think goodwill also matters. So the message for the listener also is that you have to create that goodwill. You have to create your own aura. And I think, I keep talking to the various bankers and various people, and I keep saying that our organization is known for various things, including governance, ethical practices, and many things. But that also has to reflect in your individual personality. Because if you say something, of course you are telling about on behalf of the organization, but you are also saying yourself. So if it comes from Nilesh Bhai or it's coming from Sushil Agarwal, it has to have some reflection of those individual personalities. Yeah. So goodwill does matter. I think organization where we belong, the whole the informal setup which he referred in multiple times in his conversation, I think those all matters. But your individual aura or your individual the goodwill does matter a lot. So in your organization, when you are working, you have to create that your own personality. You have to create that goodwill for yourself. So if any word is being said, people have to swear by that. Okay, if this has come from Nilesh Bhai, it can't be different than what you are thinking. So that's the personality you have to create. Right. Sorry.
Thank you. Thanks. So joined the council in 2010. My first president was Amarjit Chopra, and number of presidents I've worked with. Worked very sincerely in various committees. Being a technical man, predominantly the committees which are allocated to me by Accounting Standards Board, the Financial Reporting Review Board, the Expert Advisory Committee, the Corporate Law Committee. Luckily, did a lot of work on the Companies Bill. Companies Bill was there. It became an act in 2013. So we were pointing out to the government that the bill, the way it was not business friendly. But unfortunately, it fell on deaf ears, and it got corrected few years later. A lot of the decriminalization of the clause, which all was being pointed by us earlier. That's why we are the bad guys. So another point I want to make is, you should always communicate what you feel is right. Don't mince with this government or whatever. Maybe at that point of time, whatever is the mindset, it may be acted upon later. But you have to communicate. Though you may be, the people may feel bad about you, but you should, in a nice manner, you should communicate. So, been part of various committees, and more importantly, I was very happy that 2 committees, one committee was given to me as a vice chairman initially, and later as chairman was the board of studies. And very, very happy, I would say, thankful to my presidents in those years, been able to sort of address almost, I believe, 20,000-30,000 or maybe more students in my 9 years in the council. and addressed them, shared experiences, and I hope some of the experiences helped them. So that's the, I would say, which was very, very, one finds, a lot of activities, but you find that activity very, sort of good. And 2015, again, I fought the general election. One other thing, just to give a benchmark, the first election I contested roughly 1400 plus votes. Second election, 2012, was roughly about 2100 plus votes. Third election was 3100 plus votes.
Wow.
And that was, I was second to Mr. Zawre. Zawre Saab is a, professor, coaching class. He's got a whole battalion of students loyal to him. So been very happy that got a lot of response from the members. So with whatever work which was done. And 2015, I fought the general election. And incidentally, my son had got engaged in February of that year, and his marriage was in January 16. Again, from a project management, I'm just telling you, I told my family, we had booked the venue. I said, I'm not going to focus on the catering or the decoration till the time my elections get. That was first week of December. Within few days, got into the act of organizing for the marriage. Of course, luckily, we are a large joint family, so a lot of support from everyone. So the decorators, the catering, this, that, etc. So in almost about a month's time, all that was fixed. And that got over in 20th January. Within few days, I was on my vice president election. So February of 16, that was my fourth attempt for the VP. I had contested 3 times earlier. Fourth time, despite general election, despite my son's marriage, I was lucky the fourth time, I can say so. And I think the fortune favors the brave. I got elected in a tie. Yeah. It was 16-16. So just destiny. So I would say a lot of...
16 as in?
There are 32 elected members who vote.
Okay.
So the votes I got was 16.
Okay.
And the person who was next, we don't know who the next person was, also got 16. And there was a chit which came out, and I was elected in chit. So...
Okay. So there are 32 central council members.
Elected central. The total 40 central council members. 8 are government nominees.
Got it.
They don't vote. So this is the, So as a vice president, I supported my president tremendously, Mr. Devraj Reddy, and worked like at a shadow with him, whatever. I was more a technical man, so my areas I covered and supported, superbly. Next year I became president, and incidentally, I don't know, I'll share one thing later, sacrifice also, what it entailed, maybe in the next version if I'm going to say. In that year, only one very memorable thing, 2-3 thing, is sowing the seeds of the SSP portal. Today, Institute, the technology platform, maybe however the youngsters may criticize, but getting that through, when I had joined the council in 2010, we had a project Parivartan on technology which failed. We spent 10 crores and didn't succeed. This SSP portal, I just sowed the seeds. We had Anil Bhandari, council member, and MP Vijay Kumar from SIFI. So they initiated, then Mr. Atul Gupta, who was president few years back, and Manu Agarwal, another council member. 4 of that team worked on the project. I approved it, but I said, my approval is not enough. Talk to the vice president, take his feedback, take his suggestions, because these type of projects takes time, and it should, like, where there's one year, term, you can't see these projects through. So they, briefed the vice president, took all his suggestions. So there was buy-in of the vice president. It got, done. And the person who implemented it was Mr. Praful Chhajet. He was president 2 years later than me. And full, I would say, credit to him that he said from 1st April, this will be the only thing which will work. And so much pain. For 6 months, the whole profession went through pain, I would say. But because of that, during the COVID years, the institute could run seamlessly despite, But my job was only sowing the seed. So idea is somebody sows the seed, somebody nurtures it, and somebody grows it. So life has to be at different points of time. Don't always expect to reap the fruits. You need to sow the seeds also. So fruits can be to the other.
And I think if I just want to kind of add what he's trying to also say in my own way, I would say a conviction. And I love this word because what you do, if you have a conviction, then you see the results. So maybe you may not see those results in your own era, someone else era, those results will come. But he had a conviction that this particular thing is right to do, right for the institute, right for the larger benefit of people like the entire profession. And he kind of worked on that, and maybe during his own tenure, that project may not have succeeded the way you would have thought, but it takes time, and we all know. So conviction is also another very, very important words. And the meaning has to be understood by all our listeners, all our professional colleagues, or those who intend getting into this profession. I would say your conviction would make again the difference in what you do in your life.
Yeah.
One is conviction. One other thing is in a situation how to get a work done. See,
Yeah.
I knew I'd seen a project failing when I joined the council, and whatever the reasons were, I don't want to get into the reasons. And how do you manage in a situation like that? So focus that on, and then I think results will follow. So that was another. Another landmark thing that year was GST, and I can be very proud of saying it started in my early as a vice president, that the amount of efforts we made in training our members, around more than 5-6 lakh hours of GST training. And a substantial part. Earlier, the sales tax or the VAT practice was mainly with non-chartered accountants, advocates, and sales tax practitioners. Thanks to the amount of efforts we made in training our people on the GST laws, I think a lot of substantial part of the GST practice came to the profession. So that was another major. So this is the second parallel. One was elections, one was the professional career. Third, I would say related to the profession is the directorships. I was, 2005, Nirmal Jain and Venkat of IIFL approached me that they wanted me as a director. And I thought possibly they hit a wrong number. So I said, you come to a wrong person. Kamlesh Bhai was then the vice president of the Institute of President. I said, you should take him. He's more public figure than me. I'm just a partner in a firm, 20 years doing audit, horse with the, blinkers, just doing maybe better role, valuation, due diligences, etc., etc. So you should have him. No, they said, we want you only. Coming back to Sushilji's point, somebody was observing somewhere. I don't know who.
Yeah.
So that's really, because I think, we genuinely kind of mistake, and which is where we want results tomorrow.
Yeah.
And someone is watching you, someone is observing you, and they see something in you which we don't know, we have not realized, and that's where the results are.
Yeah.
So they insisted that I join, and that time I just asked them one question, that are you two only going to run the organization? That time they were running everything. Or you want to sort of make it professional and have more people as CFO, marketing, HR. No, we want to professionalize. So I said, good. So I was part of that journey. I'll be finishing my term as on 31st March in IIFL Finance, which was early IIFL Holding, and in 361, which is the biggest wealth management company, maybe in the coming year in 24. But that has been a very, very, again, a satisfying experience of seeing that, group starting from a small entity getting into now 4-5 listed entities, and a couple of them still raring to be listed, in times to come. A huge wealth creator. Of course, I would say 99% efforts of Nirmal, Venkat and the team, Karan and in 361. But maybe I would say 1% or less than 1% effort of the collective boards from that point of time. In governance, in a lot of things, control system, because in a very fast growing entity always is a race between growth and the control. So how do they, for the longer term, sustainability of an organization, I think controls also are very, crucial and important. So been happy in adding value, little value, whatever value I could add. That was one. Second, somewhere in 2011, Federal Bank approached me to join on the board. So there was an interview of the NRC, then the MD met me. Finally,
what is NRC?
Nomination and Remunerations Committee. Generally, they decide who the directors would be.
Typically, that's more relevant in listed companies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because listed companies in today's era, they want to make sure that senior level appointments are being independently has been kind of viewed and given their consent. So NRC is always chaired by independent directors.
Got it.
That's what Nilesh Bhai is referring to.
So joined the board of Federal Bank. Again, did a lot of work there. Thanks to one of the, I would say, file reviews which the board asked me to do of a quick mortality case. Quick mortality means you give a loan and in 6 months it turned bad. 50 crore loan. So at that point of time I said we should not be in the corporate wholesale lending business. Board agreed, we stopped. But suddenly, maybe what used to happen is old loans used to get repaid, corporate loans, and new retail growth. Sham, the CEO currently there, is a retail man, but the growth, balance sheet growth was not there. So some transitional lateral hiring, etc. was done, and lot of efforts in Federal Bank to, it was a laid back, though it's a private bank, it was like a laid back public sector bank in those times. So how to bring in energy, how to think changes with Sham as a leader, supporting him and getting, things done. So I would say the collective board put in a lot of effort. Again, a very, very satisfying experience. And there the thing was the senior most director in the board becomes the chairman. When I say not by age, but by joining the board. So I got that opportunity somewhere in 2015, I became chairman. And when I became vice president in February of 16, I talked to my president and whether I should resign from here, as a chairman. He said, Nilesh, please don't do that. Hardly few CAs are becoming chairman of banks. You're one of them. Please continue. So I continued till February 17, the time I was taking over. But that time I decided that ICAI presidentship is a 24/7 job and it's a hot seat. So can't manage both the responsibilities. So I sacrificed, though I would say position-wise chairman of Federal Bank would have been a larger position, but I said, no, it's not right for me to hold both the positions and not do justice. So I quit as a chairman of the board, but I continued as a director. Because my past experience, I wanted to still add value to the bank. And I was going to continue till 19, even post my presidentship year. So I said, let me continue that. Little bit less responsibility. You may do some meetings, online. That time, online was not so fashionable in the sense, the way post-COVID it is. But we could do, other than the audit report meetings, other than that, you could do everything, online. So did that. I used to manage, work. So sacrifice also is important when you come out with this type of a situation. So that was the purpose of, informing.
Right.
Of course, later on, joined various board. SBI Life had SBI is a superb company, Life also. So numbers. So currently, as we speak, I am there on 7 listed boards and 3 unlisted, all. So limit is full.
Wow.
But having told that, the directorship may look very, great coming from a viewer's perspective, but I think that's a very onerous responsibility. A lot of expectations today, especially from the regulators. So one needs to be careful.
Right.
Sorry, so longish, but that was.
No, very good.
Very impressive, and it's going to help everyone understand about your journey as well. Just one quick question here. So you're on the board of a lot of listed entities as well. If someone wants to get on, if someone becomes a board of director on a listed company as an independent director, how much one can expect to get out of these board memberships? Is it a sitting fees kind of a concept?
No, it is sitting fees, and it varies from company to company. Okay. Smaller companies may pay less, larger companies pay more. But larger companies generally want experienced people more, more would add value and name to the boards. And smaller companies, so it's a range.
Got it. And it would be on a per sitting
sitting fee for the meeting. Basis. And there is some of the directors are paid commission at the end of the year in case there are profits. But that is again for the meeting. The commission is not related to any. I would say any other job, but it's an additional meeting fees which is permitted under the Companies Act. But some companies do that.
So maybe if I want to expand, because we pay those sitting fee plus commission for most of our listed companies, I think the intent here is who in some form is contributing more. So obviously when you come for a meeting, there's sitting fee being paid when you attend that meeting. And this whole contribution in some form or other, the commission payment, although it has a linkage with the presence of your meetings and all of that, but in some form it gets capture of your contribution also, because there are multiple committees you have of the board which you attend, contribute, and I think those commission, although it's based on the profitability of the company, but it also has some linkage with the contribution.
Got it.
So the number could be very, very different in different companies. So it's a fairly large, but I think Nilesh Bhai made another point in the beginning that's a lot of responsibility. So it's just not very fancy to kind of say that you just go and join the board. And board also would not expect you to come and sit there just because you are a chartered accountant or you have a particular position on maybe MBA from a good institute. They would expect you to kind of really contribute in some form.
So just one quick question here again. So you are also on the board of these companies, and you were also the president of the institute in 2016, you mentioned, right? 2017-18. So when you took that decision of not continuing, not being the chairman of Federal Bank and working for ICAI, so how was that entire experience of 1 year as an ICAI president, and how does a typical day look like in the day of an ICAI president? So what was that 1 year like?
See, that 1 year was, I don't know how to describe it. It was, I don't know the English word, but didn't know what was happening in the sense you're so much involved. Just to give one small example, I used to go to New York, say for a IFAC meeting, attend this meeting for 2 or 3 days and take the return. So no time for body to adjust on the jet lags, etc. But there's a lot of adrenaline which flows. So never felt that I got a jet lag or a this or a that, just there's so much work to be done. So we're fully engrossed in the work for the general benefit of the profession. One thing I missed out to mention is one very landmark event which happened during my time was the Prime Minister's coming personally for the CA day on 1st July. Only one condition was he will not attend in Vigyan Bhavan, which is a normal place where we hold meeting. It has to be in Indira Gandhi Indoor Stadium. And that is a 20,000 capacity stadium. So we had to fill it up with students and members and all. And invited him because 30th June 2017 night GST was launched in the Parliament. 1st July he wanted to make a big bang announcement to the world because tonight 12 o'clock nobody sees. So that was his way of communicating to the world. And CA and GST was, sort of coincident. Yeah. Plus there was a launch of the new course. So it was not only the Prime Minister who came there. There were 6 union ministers who were there in the meeting. And at the same time, in each state capital, there was a program going on at the same time. There were 11 chief ministers, including at that point of time, so Yogi Adityanath had just been elected in UP. Mr. Devendra Fadnavis and Nitin Gadkari, union minister, were sitting in Chanmughanand Hall in Bombay. Mr. Suresh Prabhu, I think, was in Bangalore or in Trivandrum. I forgot the. So 34 union ministers all across the country, 11 chief ministers, 16 state finance ministers, all watching Mr. Modi in an ICAI program from wherever they were in their respective state capitals. Right. So I think, I don't think in my knowledge at ICAI, at one point of time, almost the whole government, 40 union ministers, the Prime Minister, 11 chief ministers and 16 state finance ministers have been in one program. So it was just, of course, I consider myself as a nimit or the conduit. I was there at the right time and the right place. I could do that. And that was of course, Prime Minister did speak on a lot of, challenges within the profession and which we need to improve. And in my view, that time I felt very bad. But in hindsight, if I see, I think that was I would say, a suggestion of an elder brother, which came at the right time for us to change. And that's the way I now look at it. That time, of course, being on the top seat, I felt very bad. How is the Prime Minister, speaking like this? Right. But later on, I think somebody telling you, showing you a mirror and why you need to change. So that's my, again, request to our honorable listeners who will be there. Let's do the right thing. There's no room for any wrongdoing in the current regime or in the regimes which is going to come.
Right. No, absolutely. And I assume it will be like Monday to Sunday working and 24/7 you have to be on your toes. Absolutely. If you're the president. Absolutely. So even like sacrifice of sleep and you have to be on the toes.
But you don't realize that. There's so much passion, so much work going on. Honestly, I said I didn't realize it. And you're so happy doing it. Right. It benefits also. Something if you're doing for personal, you may feel tired. But you're doing for the benefit of a larger cause. Right. I think that doesn't tire you.
But one tough one actually, like a lot of people also ask. So since it's like a voluntary position in the sense that you have to do it for the profession and fraternity. So if there is no monetary benefit which is involved, so what is the incentive and what is the non-monetary benefit out of that entire stint?
See, the fact that you become a council member itself is the biggest benefit. I think today you are elected out of thousands and thousands of members. And my belief is you need to pay back. To whatever you have done. So you pay back to your organization, to pay back to your educational institution from where you have studied, you pay back to the profession. So that has been the ethos as a family we have been, done with. And I would say the intangible benefit is humongous. And today, I think all of us believe in karma theory. You do a good karma, how it is going to come back, I don't know how, and maybe separately I'll chat up with you. It has come back and I have seen in my own life. Not at that point of time. Yeah. The intangibles have now started delivering. But we are not expecting it. Let me again when we did that, there was no intent of gaining anything out of it. The whole idea was to pay back. But the way nature works, the way Kudrat works, in Hindi we call it Kudrat, is nothing you do goes unrewarded, good or bad. If you do bad, you'll be punished. If you do good, you'll be rewarded. Right. And during our own lifetime.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and we are getting the fact that we get so much respect from the membership at large as president, this, that, etc. So,
right. No, absolutely. I was recently reading one statistic, by the way. So, as of July 2023, there are 3.93 lakh chartered accountants in India. And out of 3.93 lakh CS, 1.5 lakh are doing practice, and the remaining, they don't have COP. So, COP is Certificate of Practice, and they are either doing a job or they are doing a business or they are becoming faculties, etc. So, I wanted to ask the two of you, Sushilji, we can begin with you. Where do you see these numbers of people who are opting for practice versus people who are opting in industry? Where do you see these numbers going in the next 5 to 7 years in India?
So, I don't know whether I want to comment on the number. But the way you should see in a context that the India you have to not see growth today, you have to see a exponential growth going forward. And that's what India is all about. At least, people are talking that the economy will see not only a decade, but it's a multi-decade story around India. In that background, these numbers logically, whether it's in practice or in service, will only grow. So that's one broad message. Second, in my mind, I think the role of chartered accountant also is evolving and is changing, and it's changing big time. Look at the way things are happening globally. Look at the way things are happening on technology side, whether the role of intelligence agents, AI, all of that. And I think since roles are changing, I think requirements are becoming different. And I think originally a CA possibly was kind of known as a controller more, but I think today I can honestly say is more of a value creator. I don't think I would have made this statement earlier that today CAs, even in industry, they are a performance partner. So it's not only the CEO who is responsible for profitability, performance of the company, but CFOs are also equally responsible for that. Clearly, I think CA's role are not restricted to audit, tax, untypical accounts and all of that. Is moving from strategy to different part of contribution. So in that background, the whole role itself is changing. Numbers will continue to kind of grow because the way India is growing. I was in institute a couple of days back, only a few days back, and I think the recent pass out student, I was amazed to kind of see the representation of female chartered accountants in the audience. And my general sense, I didn't count it and didn't ask them, but it was of at least 45% female was there. And it was a crowd of almost 500 odd number of CAs who passed out this time. At least those who were present on number would be larger, but those who were present in the institute the other day. And the point I'm making is you are getting a different breed. The needs are changing. Skill set requirements are changing, so the numbers would directionally, because whether industry will get an extra number, even when Nilesh Bhai possibly will talk about, I think the requirement from practice side also is changing. We don't only look CA firm as a audit partner or a tax partnership. I think we are looking them, give us a guidance on various consulting side. So roles are actually changing, and that's where the numbers will be very different. Right. Nilesh Bhai.
Kushal, on your question that where you feel the numbers are going, in my view, it'll grow exponentially, and I'll tell you the reason. In my view, and this is for the audience who are still deciding whether to do this course or not, this is for them. I think CA is the best commerce course not only in India but in the whole world, the Indian CA. And for me, I got a reason telling that. Nowhere in the world you can do practical training along with your academics. So that's a game changer. Yeah. Though we may have a lot of these foreign courses coming in, giving a lot of lollipops, you can do this, that. Their only interest is to be there in the Indian market. We are the biggest market for the foreign institutes, or foreign, I would say, educational institutes. So no disrespect to them. They may be adding value in their own respect. But I think Indian CA is a brand. We have got about, out of this 393,000, almost 50,000 members abroad. And across almost all the parts of the world. We've got very active chapters everywhere. More importantly, again, listeners, those who are still deciding about this course, this is the most cost-effective course in the country. For those who are still deciding, hardly 70,000-80,000 is the cost. For all your articleship and the exams and all,
and
maybe
you get that paid by during your
stipend. Your stipend you get, so that covers your coaching also. So it's a zero-sum game. Which other course you go for a medical, you go for engineering? They're all fantastic profits, but for those in commerce, in my view, this is the best. Do this. You may do add-on. You may do a CFA if you want to go deep into the, I would say, the finance field. You may do law if you want to get into practice. You may do MBA if you want to get into industry additionally. But base, that micro detail, I think the combination of relevant expertise can be done later, but so CA is very good. Again, no discrimination what is required is only hard work. No reservation, no discrimination. As Sushilji said, today almost 45% are girl students in our this thing, which itself is remarkable, where Parliament is talking of 33% reservation.
Very, very satisfying to see.
It is. From a number between industry and practice where it is going, just to, I will not exactly correct you because that number is not available. I know it. 1,50,000 are in practice, but there are another 20,000 people who are not having COP. This is the number I checked last, maybe 6-8 months, maybe a year ago. 20,000 people who are working in CA firms not holding COP. So, but marginal difference. Just I called out some statistics. In 1920, the COP holders went down by 2,500, and people not holding COP, which is industry and others, went up by 18,000. In 2021, the COP holders went up by 8,000. In industry went up by 12,000. 21-22 members practicing went up by roughly 2,500. In industry went up by 22,000. And from 1st April 22 to November 23, the practicing members, COP holders went up by 2,500, and members in industry went up by 31,000. So what does this indicate? What Sushil is saying, today is a day of India, in the sense, decade, century, people are saying. So the demand in industry is going to be huge. I'll just give 2 case points. We are handling work for few companies which are going for IPO. So one of them had 2 retainers which recently got listed as their advisor, chartered account, husband-wife team. Today they have got 3 chartered account, full-time chartered account, CFO, deputy CFO, and 1 more person. Another company is going to get listed in about a year or so. They have got 2-3 chartered accountants. Initially they didn't have any, only experienced BComs. So 3 chartered accountants. So this is the requirement, and you're seeing the number of IPOs, the number of companies which are hitting the market. So I think it's going to grow exponentially. There will be a little bit shift right now towards industry, maybe 90-10 or 80-20, 20% joining practice and 90. But having said that, the fact that people are not joining practice, after a few years, there'll be huge demand creation here itself. This is just the re-rate. You'll not get people in practice much to handle your work.
And I don't know, Nilesh, but if you want to also talk about, because Gift City is giving us specific benefits for shared services. If you set up there, and you can service people sitting in, say, US or any part of the globe, and I think there is a clear belief, which is globally belief, that India, not only they are intelligent sets of people, they are hardworking for sure. Understanding of the issues on a technical side is very, very deep. So I think in that background, this shared services itself can really kind of grow. And if that growth will be only fulfilled by so-called chartered accountants. So I think the future for chartered accountant is very, very bright. And I keep making that statement. The role itself is changing. I think role is changing big time. Industry, I've seen myself in last three odd decades, and typical from accounts to audit and tax. Now people are talking, okay, what strategy can you play a role? And there is expectation from chartered accountant also to be part of that whole strategic discussion. And there is expectation that move from a controllers to honest value creator, and which is where I'm saying the performance now is not restricted only to the CEO. The CFOs are also equally responsible to deliver those performance for the organization and company. So I think roles are changing, the needs are changing, and chartered accountancy, as Nilesh Bhai was saying, has a basic ingredients. Okay, those are the guys who can do lots of stuff what is needed for the organization.
Coming to the point of someone who wants to get into a job versus a practice. Now, most of the people who are watching this are also deciding whether to do a job versus a practice. If you both can share, how can one decide whether to do a job or whether to get into practice? Maybe basis your personal experience also back in those days when you cleared CA. That'll be very helpful for everyone as a guidance and as a mentorship light.
So Nilesh Bhai we'll keep jumping on this question as we have been talking. I don't think there is any right answer whether you get into a practice or you get into industry. It starts with your own desire. I would say your own passion, your own liking. What do you do? What you want to do? So I think I would genuinely advise people that don't do because someone else is doing it. You should do what you believe where you can excel. what you can do right. So I think to me the decision is completely honest with that individual, and they should do it based on their own inner feeling. Okay, yes, I'll be doing justice to industry or to the practice. So that's to me is a basic filter. Both in my mind would provide equal opportunities, and at least in industry, as I was talking earlier, I think role is evolving. So people earlier in some form they said नहीं हमको accounting नहीं करने का है, finance करने का है. So I don't think people really been able to differentiate between accounts and finance in a crude way, but finance possibly was a little more glamorous word, and everyone
like
wants
strategy.
to kind of, so today strategy possibly would be another word to kind of where people will get more excited. So I think that they didn't go into detail, but I think they felt it that yes, account possibly is a lot more routine kind of things. Things are changing, evolving, and whatever we have done maybe 20 years back, I don't think a chartered accountant can go away not doing the controller job, because that's the basic framework of a chartered accountant, and I don't think we should ever think of ignoring that the basic stuff. But the roles are adding, they are changing, and we can contribute a little more than what we were doing it. So controller earlier, specifically every time any proposal has come, possibly a chartered accountant would have said, "ये आगे नहीं बढ़ सकता because it's not helping, it's not giving kind of return." I don't think today we'll say कि return नहीं बन रही, तो still you approve that project. But you'll possibly sit down and kind of think through, maybe moving to Gift City for a minute. I'm just giving you an example, can add value, and which is where the return would look very differently. So that's the role which is changing. So in my mind, I don't think people should be really worried and worked about where to go and join, but I think they should decide where would they contribute extra, and which is where would they be successful, because eventually at the end of the day you want to be a successful person. And my different comment also is that you have to be useful. You have to be useful wherever you work, whether you work in a practicing part or you work in a organizational side, industry side. If you are not useful to the organization, and in their case possibly if you are not useful to the client, I don't think client is going to give you the work again. And if you are working in an organization, if you are not useful to that organization, and we at early age we keep cribbing, nahi organization ne humko growth nahi di hai, we didn't got the promotion. You are not looking at yourself. Are you really contributing to that organization? If you are contributing to the organization or you are contributing to the client, I'm sure fees is not the criteria, or the organization will not restrict your maybe so-called compensation, salary. Now there are multiple ways to reward. You can give them a LTIP, you can give them a variable pay, you can give them some bonus in some form. So there are means in which you can be rewarded. I think the basic philosophy remains, are you useful? Are you contributing? Are you giving back to that organization? So I'll stop for a minute and I'll keep jumping.
No, very good points, Sushil. Just to supplement for the viewers, I think what you need to do, there is no one answer. What say suits Sushilji will suit me or will suit Kushal. I think all the answers will be different. What is your position? So one is, I think, what background you're coming from. Assuming, say, you're coming from a financially weak background, you need to support the family, so you may need to get your job. When I say job, not necessarily industry. It could be job in a practicing firm also. I think the most crucial question to ask is, or my suggestion would be, is to do what you like. See, in your articleship, you would have done some work. So whether you like, say, audit, you like finance, you like tax, you like GST, you like, and you're seeing the other side of the table also. You like to be in a job. So different people may have different likings. So my suggestion would be, do what you like. So that's the first thing. Second, assuming there's a financial constraint. See, assume you like practice. Suppose you have done audit, tax, GST, and you want to be in practice. But if you want to start your own practice, there could be some financial limitation. In the sense, you need patience, you may get clients after some time, etc. There are ways and means around that. Just because you need money or finance doesn't mean you get into an industrial job, even though you're liking practice. So the option could be join a CA firm. Maybe you may get a little bit less than industry. Today, of course, the CA firms also are paying reasonably well. But at least you're doing a job which you like. and then grow and then evolve. And again, within practice does not necessarily mean starting your own practice. So today you're part of you can start your own practice, that is also practice. You're part of a mid-sized firm, which is also practice. You can target to become partners there. You join a large firm, that is also practice. But there are pluses, minuses everywhere. So you evaluate what pluses, minuses suits you, and then decide the course of action. So there's no one right answer.
Yeah.
Somebody, another thing, by and large, many of the youngsters which I meet, sir, we want to get into capital markets. The question is, do you have the right background? As Sushilji said, will you be useful? Say you have done a training in a firm which you have done only tax and GST. You are not done. So whether I'm ready to get into a financial services firm or a capital market firm, if need be, give some time. Join an organization where you get the relevant experience. Maybe a CA firm, maybe some other, and then jump into the... So it's not necessarily the moment you become CA, straight away jump into the area you like. Prepare yourself. The preparation could be in different ways. So prepare yourself, then get into the area where you want to. That's
right.
So passion, and then where you want to be.
Yeah.
And where you want to be, then you have to kind of be very critical to yourself. What are the skill set gaps which you have? And you should be able to kind of fill those gaps. Because if you don't excel, and which is what I'm saying, because the frustration lies when you don't excel. And you don't excel because you are not fully ready for that particular position. So I think, the passion, the understanding of the skill gaps, fulfilling those gaps, making sure that you are contributing, and then there is a reward, then there is a success.
Right.
So I think those are the way in which we have to keep seeing. Or similar things which keeps people asking, and I'm referring when I was there in last week or a few days back with the institute, those newly passed chartered accountants, and lots of people post program they were chatting and asking me, should we do only taxation? Should I do general role, or what do I do? So my answer was exactly the same. I said it's depend on you. If you feel that taxation is your passion, and if you can excel, I know lots of people we have in our organization, they have only done taxation all throughout their career. There are 3 odd decades they have been doing taxation. They have become a organizational tax expert or a group level tax expert because they like. And I think not only what they, and because they were asking what could be a career path for us if we only pick up taxation as a one area. I said some of these guys who are in a smaller company, they started with a direct, possibly they had an indirect. From a smaller, they moved to a larger organization. Now, possibly, since at least in our group we provide that opportunity, there are global tax practices. So you can do lots of stuff around. So you can be a specialist and you can be generalist. Again, depending on what you want to do and where you can actually contribute. So my theory is you have to recognize where you can contribute more.
Right. But one question here is that in a generalist versus a specialist role, before we actually experience, like for a fresher, right, they don't know because they have not experienced yet. So the question here is that how do we even get to know before we have already experienced? How do we decide where to choose or what domain to choose? So how do we deal with that?
So maybe, Nilesh Bhai briefly alluded on that. While you are doing your chartered accountancy during this so-called articleship period, what you have learned. And I think by and large we know what is our area of comfort.
Yeah, right.
So you have to have some broad understanding of yourself, and that would help. And maybe if you are not fully sure, you start with a little bit of general role, and try and test where would you be doing more justice to yourself. And then possibly you can pick up specialist role. Because in our organization, what we have also done, especially for chartered accountants, we have created a total career path movement. So I know people like yourself also. So we have created a FLP, which is one program, and we have really charted out that even if someone has taken a position in treasury or in taxation side, not necessarily they'll do treasury throughout their career, unless they decide themselves that they want to really build career there. Otherwise, we'll provide them an opportunity. We'll keep giving them a career path. So there are ways in which you can achieve what you want to achieve.
Makes sense, absolutely. If I can spend a minute on the FLP, so for everyone to know, so FLP is like Finance Leadership Program of Aditya Birla Group, and I was very fortunate enough and privileged to be a part of the same program. So three stints of 4 months each, and then we are given one final role after those stints. So we are also given exposure in the 3 different departments. I was in corporate finance and I was in strategy and business development. I was in sales, which is not given to a CA, which is unconventional for me. And then I was in corporate economics cell, which was my final role, which is again very unconventional. So all in all, I could relate to you that the opportunities for CAs are also changing, and it's like increasing a lot. And FLP specifically, when I was there, I could I really had the best of my time at Aditya Birla Group. I feel very nostalgic when you mentioned about FLP.
And Kushal, I can also add one more quick thing around CAs in our group at least, that chartered accountants, and I can give many examples, they are not only in the part of, say, typical finance role. So they are not doing only finance, accounting, treasury, some of those roles. And they are unit heads in our definition, which means they are running the plants, they are head of operations. So I don't think chartered accountant role is restricted only to a typically defined chartered accountant role. So it all depends on you as an individual, where your strengths lies. And I think the only urge point I would continue make to the listener is you have to identify your strengths, and for that, maybe it would be a good idea to have a friend in your colleague who you can spend more and more time and because other person possibly can identify your strength. Sometimes you may lack that, and if they believe that your operational capabilities are higher, so don't restrict yourself. Go and excel there in that part. Or maybe today you're part of treasury, but you like taxation more. Go and spend time there.
Yeah.
So that's how I would see.
Absolutely.
Sorry, Nilesh bhai.
Kushal, I think you asked a question, generalist versus specialist.
Yeah.
Again, lot depends. The question is, if you're doing a CA, you do from different types of firms. See, somebody's done only tax, somebody's done only audit, somebody's done only GST, this, that, or somebody's been lucky to do all three. So a lot of it would depend whether somebody's in finance. So in case you don't have the respective skill, you can do that. Of course, having said that, for those who are going to embark upon the articleship, who are viewing this, my personal view, subject to I would be proven wrong also, I don't mind, but is a person should do articleship only in audit.
Okay.
The reason is it helps you. Kushal, you may not, you're done in tax possibly, I believe.
I've done in audit and tax.
Audit
both.
also.
Yeah.
So the audit, the advantage is, number one, you go into different businesses live, you see different systems, you see different people, some good people, some bad people, how to get work done, timelines, teamwork. So the other than your academic, I would say, part of it, your personality traits shaping up, I think audit gives you substantial, so I've got a personal bias. I'm not saying tax is bad, GST, all of them are fantastic, but that's more, I would say, restricted to this job, R&D, going to the department is limited.
Yeah.
So one can do tax later on. So once you evolve, and ideally if you can do all 2-3 things during article, nothing like it. But the way firms are growing right now, I think it's more focused on one area. So that is arising out of that, assuming say you're done only audit and then you want to specialize in tax. You like tax wise, you're reading in your exams. Maybe a little bit hone your skills more with a tax firm or with tax counsels who are there. Hone yourself and then get into industry, then get into whatever you want to go. So little bit. There's no need to jump straight away from being CA into to bridge that particular gap of your skill, what Sushilji mentioned, in whichever area you want to develop, and then get into the next phase of your life.
Right. No, absolutely. I think that makes a lot of sense. And that's on the generalist versus specialist role. One quick thing here, which I also wanted to ask was now we have two stalwarts here, like one in the corporate ladder and one in the practice phase. So I've seen the statistics of ICAI. The average campus placement package is around rupees 9 lakhs per annum. And people who want to get into industry, usually they look at the average package which is there, but for CA in practice there is no specific earnings or there is no specific mention, because again it's very subjective, depends on which city you are in, which kind of assignment you do. So Nilesh sir, one question to you is that if someone wants to set up practice from scratch, there are a lot of challenges because we are not even allowed to market. We can't tell everyone that okay, I've started the practice, please come to me and all of that. So firstly, how do you get those clients, or let's say what is the way of let's say just getting those clients organically, and secondly, how much one can expect or one can charge on different kinds of assignment if he or she is going to start their own practice?
See, as far as how to get clients, I think assuming wherever that person has done his training from, initially, hopefully the principal will support him, especially in large cities, to handle some clients. Obviously, he can be a retainer, this, that. So at least for his subsistence or whatever, he can start as a retainer. Another way of getting clients, I'm just saying a few. One is speak in public forums. Say in each suburb or in each city, in each small area of a city, there is a trade association, there are chambers of commerce. Say you're a specialist in tax, you've got a skill, you're one up better than other chartered accountants, I'm saying. So start speaking on those topics. GST, international tax, FEMA, maybe IFRS, maybe Ind AS, maybe something else. So start speaking on that. Second, in any good work you do, number one, there has to be excellence in your work. You cannot just, the moment you excel in your work, as Sushilji said, there's word of mouth.
Yeah.
It spreads.
Yeah.
So it doesn't stop back. Third, as far as marketing is concerned, though our institute doesn't allow marketing, but it allows social media posts by an individual. But a firm cannot do it as an individual. Suppose you are very knowledgeable.
Yeah.
So what do you do is say for example, you're practicing in GST, any new change coming in, your commentary thereon. Law everybody can read. But you are an expert, you are able to read between the lines, okay, these are the interpretations possible. So whether it's a GST, whether it's say income tax, whether it is some new accounting standard or IFRS coming in. So what are the nuances around that? See, theory everybody knows, but I think the difference lies in experience. Say, I may read an accounting standard, but it's meaningless unless I put it to practice. And I'm expert in accounting standard because I put it to practice. I know these are the nuances involved. These are the, issues involved. For example, consolidation. Unless somebody does the consolidation of companies like Aditya Birla Nuvo or Grasim,
Yeah.
standard is only limited. There's a lot of it which is in practice.
It's actually on detail.
On detailing. So you gain expertise there. Whether it's IFRS 9 or maybe 109 financial instruments. Same way in GST and income tax, international tax. There are a lot of nuances involved. So
and I think I just want to kind of add my favorite point which I made earlier, and I'm kind of repeating, but it's relevant what Nilesh Bhai is saying, that even if you have started in a small city town, you have to start thinking, can you contribute to the client sitting in that area? And the point he's making is if you are good at tax, can you make that point in a little larger forum? Okay, yes, you have better understanding of the taxation or GST for that matter. The moment you kind of and that will word of mouth is good enough, because if you do a good job, people will start recognizing. If he has done something for me, I'll when I'm sitting, oh yeah, there's Nilesh Bhai, he does a lot of smart work on taxation. So that statement, because I have got benefit.
Right.
So it is coming from me, not because I like Nilesh Bhai, because I believe in him. He has contributed to me as my advisor. And that's the way you will get a work. So I think it's a little more nuance on everything. You have to. There is no ready-made answer to any problem in the life.
Right.
Sorry, Nilesh.
There are no issues. Another is, of course, attending the study circle meetings, branch, chapter, wherever you are. Networking. See, networking is is not being trained in our, but I think the youngsters are very smart. You have your own networks, you have friends in industry. Suppose, as I told, 80-20, 20% in practice or 10%, 80% industry. So you have your own network. So build network, build relationships. May not pay off initially. In Gujarati, there's a saying, दुनिया में सौथी मोटी खाण is ओळखाण. I'll just convert that into English. The biggest mine in the world is relationship.
Wow.
So how much you can, sort of extract out of it.
And I'll not, again, I keep disturbing him and breaking his thoughts, but I think that's my favorite as well. Because I keep saying that don't do a transactional thing. Because transaction ek baar hoega. If you want to develop a relationship, then you keep doing the transaction again and again and again.
Wow.
So I think there is a bit of nuance again sitting there, and like what I've learned, and we had as a group we had gone outside India almost say 55 years back. Some of these places like Thailand, Indonesia. So those partners, those who have started working with us or we started working with them, they are still our partners. So that was not a transaction. That was a relationship.
Absolutely.
So I think relationship is really, really big, deep message, and which is where, again, your basic question was, if you start the practice in a small place or any location, how do you ensure that you keep getting clients? So if you can build that relationship, the networking which he's talking about,
right,
the work which you do may be less remunerative to start with, but you have to be useful to that client.
right,
That's the differentiation.
right.
So, other than, of course, normal impairments, crux is add value to whatever you're doing. Do excellence in your work. And I think a very big message to the youngsters here is today, I think in practice, firms like us, we are now adopting technology. And of course, we are changing gears. So we are like, we are a mid-sized firm. So we are like elephants. We are trying to change, not elephants, I would say slightly smaller. But the nimbleness of the youngsters will be much more as far as technology is concerned, whether it is accounting, whether it is auditing, whether it's tax. If you want to be in practice, how do you harness AI? How do you harness analytics? I think that'll be a game changer.
Yeah.
And assuming you have time, assuming you don't have enough work, maybe it's an investment phase. Luckily, assuming your family can subsist with you, invest yourself in whatever is being done manually. How do you convert to technology? And already there are enough use cases of bots, this, that, etc. Which is there. I'm a director of a company where there are huge reconciliation issues. Normally in an audit committee, we don't bring that up. But since it was there, and as an audit committee chair, I said, I want that in the audit committee. So because of the pressure of the audit committee, started using bots. 70% reconciliation job done by bots. So the efforts required just went down, people requirement, etc. So, and I think there's a huge opportunity. A lot of things still to happen in that area. Analytics. How do you use data analytic tools to, in interface? So that currently the older generation is not doing the versus the clients because they are doing whatever they've been doing in the past, the returns, this, that. But the younger generation has got a niche, how to harness technology to add value. I think let's sum it up in that manner. So that is,
absolutely.
And in the interim, assuming they don't have full-time work, they can be a retainer in a firm. Assuming they don't have any clients at all, initially assuming they want to be in practice only, they want to get into industry. So they join a CA firm, spend some time, build relationship, build networks, start getting some few clients, and then benchmark. So there's the heavens are not going to fall.
Right, makes sense.
Right. So they can pace out. They can bite time, pace out till the time the right moment comes.
Right, absolutely. And can you both give me some examples of how you are also leveraging artificial intelligence or machine learning at your workplace, or how it has also benefited? You mentioned about the bots thing. Anything else apart from these?
We are using analytics substantially.
Okay.
For large, I would say, BFSI clients. We are using some tools on the analytics part because today humanly it's impossible. The volumes are huge.
What kind of tools would these
We're
be?
using IDEA for BFSI clients, and for manufacturing clients, we're using Data Snipper.
Okay.
That is as far as the analytics concerned.
So these are AI tools?
These are analytic tools.
Analytic tools, okay.
Use a little bit of AI. AI, we have to go a long way still to do that. Let me be very candid in admitting. It's just the baby steps we are taking.
Okay.
And on documentation, we started using Inflow. There's another software called Caseware, which is costly, but Inflow is coming up very well because in audit, documentation is very critical.
So how do these softwares help?
The IDEA software helps in analyzing massive data. So you query a next thing, say, the data gets imported on that, you use the IDEA tool and you query it on various, auditable queries which will come out. Say from that data, give something which is out of range, give something, whether it's in, whether all the repayments have come in a BFSI client. So depending on what you want to see, if you want to see in manufacturing, different type of data, say whether a journal entry has been passed on a holiday. So manually you can't do that. So through technology, so you just need to visualize, whatever your auditing queries are there, just put it. Normally you would go by sample, this will throw your data.
Right.
So out of say 1 lakh entries, it may give you say 100 things which are not within those bounds of the querying you have raised. Then you analyze that 100 entries and see how it is, relevant. Not necessarily all the 100 entries are wrong, the rationale reason for that. So various ways of, so it is helping a lot and more. I think still it is very nascent, but long way to go.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
See, the way we have, just sorry for a minute.
No, please.
The way Uberization has happened, you've got a technology company running taxis. I think time is not far away where you'll have technology companies doing it. Will be CA firms, but technology will have such a large importance that it will be, a technology firm doing, say, audit or tax or GST. And the same is true for everyone.
Yeah, life is changing.
It's Uberization.
Absolutely. Anything specific at Aditya Birla Group which you
No,
are
some of
leveraging?
these things, and I think as Nilesh Bhai clearly said, we are moving at a very, very fast changing environment. What is true today, tomorrow is completely changed. This whole world is moving at a different pace, and I think the message to all our listeners would be that you have to have a mind which is very agile. You have to really respect. You have to kind of keep thinking. You have to be very, very flexible in your approach. So don't say that yesterday what you had learned, and possibly that was the best on that particular day, but tomorrow that may not be relevant. So I think your adaptability has to be very, very strong. Your agility to kind of change has to be superlative. So I think the way things are changing at a global level, and I think we have to ensure that we are flexible enough to kind of change our gears and kind of keep moving in those right directions.
Right. I think it's like, to put it other way, it's like you need to unlearn, learn, and then relearn.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Absolutely. And before I ask the next question, it's related to hiring. So how big is the team at both your companies? Like, in the sense, how many people?
There's no comparison.
Yeah, I mean, I'm asking about the qualities that you look before hiring. So just wanted to understand a rough number. So how many people would be there in your?
In KKC currently we have about 300 people, of which 250 in Mumbai, maybe around 20 in Bangalore, around 15 in Pune, and about 10 odd in Ahmedabad. So there are 4 locations. And we're looking at expanding in Chennai.
Wow.
Maybe looking at some firms and
trying.
Of course, we merged one firm last year with us, a small firm called DNV.
Okay.
A 45-member firm, and I think opportunities are huge.
Right.
You said on the hiring, what type of skills you're looking at?
Yeah, I mean, like, what are some of the traits? Because I'm sure you would be taking interviews of a lot of candidates and a lot of youngsters also. What are some things you look for before hiring?
See, I'm not taking interviews of youngsters now, more at the senior level.
Yeah.
But for me, it is mainly the attitude which is the crux, whether the person is having a positive attitude, whether it's a team player in today's time, because sole rangers, I think, is not so much of a time. Unless you need some very, very specialist role, it's fine. Whether the person has a attitude of learning, especially every day, agility and learning, because new things keep on happening. So very critical. Communication. I think the biggest problem which we CAs have, please pardon me, is that we don't communicate enough. And that is the message, in the world today. We need to communicate. Maybe it is a small thing. Maybe something has come to you. You're not able to do certain things in time. Just send a message that I've got stuck up with this. I'll do this. See, in international relations, there is this thing. Anything you receive, I think 24 hours is an outer timeline to respond. I'm saying not as if work to be done, but you received an email or you received a message, that response has to go. You may do the work later on. Because I'm tied up and I'll do after 8 days, 10 days. But that communication, I think that is where I'm seeing a lot of it needs to improve.
And communication has got nothing to do with English, in my opinion. It's just about how do you articulate and how effective you are. People think that just because they can't speak English, they cannot communicate effectively.
Absolutely not. Absolutely.
It's a more a mindset issue. We need to be confident that we have to communicate what you want to communicate. And I think it's not a form where I want to make that statement, but I think I'm reserving my comment. But fact remains, you have to have a confidence that this is what I want to communicate. Whether you communicate in English or Hindi, that doesn't really important.
Absolutely.
I think this confidence of making sure that you have been able to let person know that this is what is important. I think that's the way we should see. I think this whole English also has put in a lot of pressure in the minds of people, and this whole communication is misread in my definition.
Right.
Some other traits, of course, which I think is very tough, is leadership skills where the person has, if you're looking at a senior hire, and of course confidence, and what is the mindset on adopting of technology in today's time.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think whether you interview for a CFO firm or you interview for a large organizations, the adaptability which I kept highlighting, to me that's going to be extremely important issue. I think soft skill also is a very, very important piece, and we also, at least I keep asking whether the person has a courage. And when I say courage slightly in a different form, because I want that person to speak up. If something is going wrong, and if he has noticed that, he or she, they should have a courage to tell that organization, there is something going wrong. They should not be fearful that, he's my boss, how can I say about him? And that to me is another big differentiation you can put. So there are different ways in which you can see. So the whole soft skill part, the courage, and I keep encouraging people to speak up.
Right. So from what I understand is that you both would look more at the softer skills as compared to the hard skills or the technical skills.
Because
which are
technical
there, right?
in my
It's a
mind is
given.
given.
It's a given.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Exactly. So those are given. I
Right.
don't think one would spend too much of time. Yes, analytical skill and some of those are still given. I think the whole issue today is where would you pick up those softer aspects, because that will make the organization different.
Right. Having that ownership mindset is very important.
Matlab, I can't not use that word. To me, this whole entrepreneurship or ownership mindset, because if some, and I've seen many people, अगर आप किसी के लिए काम कर रहे हैं तो you will do differently. If you would have, and I'll quote a very simple, very crude example. Early days of my career, and we were in Thailand. There was a large conference happening, and I won't quote, but it's relevant for people to understand. Some other young person, we were staying in hotel, of course, and we bought. Thailand was those days famous for the clothing part, because there were lots of ready-made garments will be available at a relatively better pricing. So that person also had bought a lot of clothes, and he gave those newly bought clothes for laundering. And I was amazed, and amazed with the thought process. He wouldn't have done this if he was looking at that ownership point of view. It's not a matter of whether 1,000 baht or 10,000 baht, but the issue is mindset.
Right.
You have to behave like owner. If you really want to kind of rise in the organization ladder, or you want to contribute, because those small issues makes the difference. Because you would not have done if you would have been the owner of that organization. Because someone else is paying, you behaved a little differently.
Yeah.
So I think there are nuances sitting in, and we have to really kind of do things which is like a owner. And when it comes to entrepreneur side, I think entrepreneurial is sitting in our head, and which is where this whole ownership issue comes into the play. And if we start doing that way, not only you will be useful or contribute to the organization, and which is where again the whole this reward issue, can I grow, can organization will promote me, or will they give me proper compensation, all these are hidden, because you are really doing what organization is looking for. And when I was saying this whole issue of speak up, or there is another slightly different example. Again, in my earlier career, when I moved into Mr. Aditya Birla's office, as I said, 89 when I joined, 90s is middle when I moved to his office, and early part of my days in his office, and there was one plant got shut down in one of our location, and that was Mr. Birla's very packed day, and I didn't inform him. Next day, I think the typical way we would used to do is next day, before we really start our day, we'll review all the things. And when I told Mr. Birla that plant got shut down yesterday, and he was seriously upset, without losing his kind of messaging, but he kind of said, what the hell, why didn't you inform me yesterday? So I said, you are very busy, and you had a back-to-back meetings. So I said, Sushil, you would have knocked it, and you have all that time for you. And then he explains me that always give me bad news first. And the reason for that is, he says, then I have that much of extra time to attend to that problem. Had you told me yesterday, I would have taken action yesterday. You have delayed by 24 hours. So to me, that was a big lesson to me. Wow. Okay, always, and typically we will all say that bosses ko pehle achhi news suna do, and keep the bad news. And I've seen there is one person in our organization. He kept putting papers into his drawer. 6 months later, we got to know. I said, what the hell? He said, मेरे को courage नहीं था. I said, ठीक है. Even if there is a mistake, you have to have that courage. So the point I'm making is, speak up, have a courage, bad news first, because that helps the organization. Because if you have that much of extra time, so he giving me those gyan those days, I always carry that particular thing, and there are a few things which always remains in my mind. And I think depending on the time, Kushal, we can talk about some of those experience further.
Sure. I mean, if
just two things arising supplement. One is that ownership mindset. When I was handling audits, now I'm sort of a little bit away. Is I used to tell people, and even now the CEO Gautam also is, even in an audit you put the ownership mindset. See, especially large organizations, you go say how would the owner want that thing to, from a controls perspective, from a systems perspective, assuming, and your findings will come on its own. See, you're looking at a ground level. The owner, assuming it's a large organization, is sitting somewhere else. So what would he want? And put your that ownership. Okay, you're owning that place, and how do you want it to be run by other people? So automatically the systemic issue, the control issue, everything will start popping up the moment that mindset is there. And second important thing in communication, what Sushilji mentioned, is you need to speak up. Absolutely true. No, but at the same time, in life situation, many times situations come. How do you communicate tough things where you know the opposite person may not take it in the right manner? So that is also a skill which needs to be acquired. I learned that early in my career. I was a joint auditor in Central Bank. Mr. Narayan Swamy, he was an erstwhile council member, partner of a firm called S. Venkatraman Company down south in Chennai. And the way he was considered to be Palkhiwala of South, the way he used to communicate tough things to, there should be joint audit, 6 firms, and somebody was doing something wrong, blatantly, unethically wrong amongst these 6, when you have 6 firms. But the way he used to communicate things, where the opposite person used to take it up smilingly.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, even still I have not learned the full art, but at least the moment you're aware, you start to sugarcoat so that, without creating offense to you, how do I tell you something which is right? No personal offense meant to, the opposite person, but that message has to be sent across. So, but it's an art which one has to, sort of develop over a period of time.
Yeah.
I was reading the other day, like, how do you give feedback is also something which you need to learn and which you need to understand.
Absolutely.
Like, giving feedback is also an art. Like, you need to understand, you empathize and you step into the shoes of the other person and not make that person feel very bad. At the same time, you give your message.
Absolutely.
So that is a skill in itself. So coming back to you, Sushilji, and like you've worked closely with Mr. Birla, who's the chairman of Aditya Birla Group as well, and you also mentioned about the experiences. So what are some things you have learned from him? And if you can also talk about the experiences that you were mentioning, we'll be very grateful.
Very simple. I think, again, I'm talking of a little early part of my career. Those days, I would also say that our group is known for governance, ethical practice, and some of those stuff. And my early days of career, I don't think the word governance was coined those days. And again, I was as with Mr. Aditya Birla, early part of my career, maybe 4 or 5 days or 7 days in his office, and I was there with him for few of my important issues to be cleared. And I saw he was talking to his father, Mr. B.K. Birla, and Nilesh Bhai talked about there is a company called Indian Rayon, which then got converted into Aditya Birla Nuvo because we added more newer businesses. So Aditya Birla, the Indian Rayon used to buy a pulp product from Century Textile. And Century was owned by Mr. B.K. Birla, and Indian Rayon was part of ABG, which is Aditya Birla's company. And I saw a little surprisingly, they both were negotiating on that pulp which Indian Rayon will buy from Century Textile. And I was amazed. I said, what the hell is going on, father son? They are really kind of negotiating so hard. So after 15-20 minutes of discussion, when he kept his phone down, in my own way, I asked him this question. I said, there are too many important issues lying, and why were you kind of haggling with your father? I didn't exactly use that word, but in some form, I asked that question to him. And he said, you are right, Sushil, and he went back to his chair like this, and he said, but we were both doing our part of job. He's responsible for separate set of shareholder. I'm responsible for separate set of shareholder. To me, governance word was not coined in the country. And look at the arm's length. Look at the related party transition which we are talking today. But that's the lesson which I learned early part of my career in 1990. To me, I can't forget that. And today, despite anything, some of these lessons actually comes very, very handy. If there are any confusion, I go back and see where the benefits, who's the beneficiary, and we have to make sure it passed the headline test. And that's another favorite of mine when I say headline test, because headlines test any decision which you have taken, you should be in a position to get up in front of thousands of people and say, okay, yes, I did that. Because that will show the courage at your end, and make sure that you can get up in front of large gathering when you can own that. So the headline test is another piece which I've learned during this early part of my career. Another thing which he taught me was Sushil Likh lo in the sense that when you are chatting and if you have some suggestion, he says Sushil Likh lo. I used to get very, very irritated, frustrated. But the fact remains, the idea was when you start writing, you clean up your thoughts. Because you have some suggestion, you have some thought, and you want to kind of explain that thought, but you have not written fully. So when you start writing, you clean up the thoughts. You put in taxation angle, you put in a company laws angle, and today's world you will put in possibly related party angle, what the SEBI will look at, how the stock exchange will look at, what the minority will look at. So when you start writing, the thoughts becomes clearer. So Likh lo was something which I learned, and I think it goes very, very handy to me. And I think another piece of learning which I had with Mr. Current Chairman, Mr. Kumar Mangalam Birla, I think again when he joined in '95, late '95, and possibly it was a few months later, there is one advice, legal advice, which I took from then the law, very highly known law firm was Mullah and Mullah, and they were our solicitors at a group level in many companies. And that advice, legal advice, actually kind of involved one of our listed company and one of our private company which belongs to promoter. And if I remember, don't exactly remember, but it was 15,000-20,000 crores, 15,000-20,000 rupees advisory, the bill which he had raised on us. And the bill was raised on the name of listed company. And since I took that advice, the bill came to me. And I was also not very sure, should I send it to the listed company? And which is where I put a yellow stick and sent it to chairman saying, for your advice, something on those lines. And for many weeks that note will not come down. And so one of those Saturdays when we were cleaning up our lots of old issues, and it was there on my pending list, and I asked Mr. Birla, I said, okay, there is one note which I had sent you. So he said, yeah, Sushil, I also wanted to talk to you. What is that note all about? What is this opinion which you took? And then I explained a bit, or rather, before I could explain him, he asked me a question, who is the bigger beneficiary of that opinion? And I remember I just pulled out that paper from the table and I said, I got my answer. So the message is, again, from a governance perspective and from a related party, who the beneficiaries are. So in my life, I don't get into problems on related party and who is the beneficiary, because some of these arm's length, all of those have been in my system early part of my career. So you get, and those are nuances. Because 15,000-20,000 rupees is neither here and there. The message, then he added one line, he said, Sushil, आपके ऑफिस से पेपर जाएगा, वो तो पेमेंट तो कर देंगे, but what message are you sending? Because that guy also understand कि opinion तो ली है, who got the larger benefit out of that opinion. So I think some of those nuances actually kind of helps you when you build your career, and again, in some form or other, this whole discipline issue, and I want to kind of quote slightly different example. And maybe I don't know whether Nilesh Bhai can relate completely. During this COVID period, Sundarkand is part of Ramayana, and this part is where Hanumanji is going to find out about where is Sita and all of that, and he actually eventually found out where is she, and he comes back. And he comes back and reports and he used to report to Sugriv. So he comes and tells Sugriv, although he has done such a extraordinary work, he could have straight gone to Lord Rama, but he goes to Sugriv. कि मैंने ऐसे पता लगा लिया, यहाँ है वो है, and then Sugriv takes him to Jamvanji, because Sugriv के boss Jamvanji हैं. And then Jamanji takes both of them and goes to Lord Ram. So the message we want to leave, there are organizational discipline. One has to kind of make sure that you are following the hierarchy of organization, because sometimes you get carried away because you have done such a great job, and in your anxiety you want to kind of jump around and go and let people know, but you don't need to forget your hierarchy. So make sure that when you run in and remain in the organization, you kind of maintain those kind of discipline. And before I end on this topic, I think there's another related question, and I was referring earlier. Okay, speak up if there is something going wrong, and you should have a courage to kind of speak up. And those who do not speak up, there are another reference which I learned again from that same Sundarkand, where when Lord Rama comes to other part of the Lanka, and they were about to kind of go to Lanka, and Ravan was sitting with his team, and he got to know that the Sena has come on the other part. So he asked his so-called mantris and Guru Ved and all of that, कि भाई वो लोग आ गए हैं, क्या करना चाहिए? So the response from his advisors were, नहीं आपने तो बड़े बड़े देवताओं and असुरों को मारा हुआ है, तो ये वानर वगैरह और मनुष्य तो मतलब आपके सामने कुछ नहीं है. So you don't need to do anything. The message here is that one, you don't undermine the competition, and second, don't do or don't speak what your boss likes. The fact remains that they knew the other side was equally powerful, but Ravan would not like that. So his advisor is not telling him the truth कि वो लोग equally smart है, capable है. So two messages.
Right.
So you have to speak up of what is right, and they didn't say that, and that ends, that conclusion of that para is कि wherever Guru, Vaidya and Mantri, ये तीन बड़े अपने लाइफ के अंदर इम्पोर्टेंट लोग होते हैं, अगर वो राइट चीज़ नहीं बोलते हैं, डॉक्टर है, अपने को बड़ी बीमारी हो गई है, इफ़ ही डजंट टेल अस, वी विल रिमेन इन डार्क. मेरा मंत्री मतलब मेरा एडवाइज़र है, और गुरु मेरा मतलब जो गुरु है, तो अगर वो मेरे को राइट चीज़ नहीं बताएंगे तो मैं गलत काम करता रहूँगा. सो आई थिंक द मैसेज इज कि दीज पीपल हैव टू स्पीक अप and give the right messaging. So I'll kind of stop here for a minute and
wow.
Yeah.
So like one of the best answers. I mean, I am charged up myself after listening to these examples. I'm sure you would be like charged up after listening to this.
True.
But very, very nice examples, and thank you so much for sharing all these in detail. Before we conclude, right, like one just quick question to Nilesh sir. A lot of people are asking about the new avenues of opportunities if they want to get into practice. So apart from the traditional taxation and auditing, which is always there, what are like some of the newer opportunities for CAs who want to get into practice?
Lot of opportunities, as Sushil ji said. One, of course, as I told, how do you make everything technology oriented, whatever we are doing? So that itself is a huge opportunity. You need not do audit, tax, whatever, but how do you convert that with the experience you have? Second is, of course, forensics, I believe, is a very upcoming and growing area. ESG is again a focus, not only the larger industries, but even down the line, it will start seeping down. So a lot of advisory, assurance around that. Insolvency currently mainly restricted to corporates, but I believe it will come in a big way to non-corporates also as time progresses. So insolvency is a big opportunity which is there. We'll have to have patience, but it will come. Of course, valuations, then shared services, what you mentioned, BPO, KPO type of jobs from all over the world, which we can do sitting out of here. Inbound advisory, the reason is India is going to be the growth leader in the world. So a lot of inbound, outbound advisory work will be coming up. It's already there, but it will increase in proportion. So a lot of opportunity there. And one thing is, whatever we are doing right now, so for example, we are more into traditional practice, tax returns and all. How do we convert that? Say my main focus is advisory, tax returns filing is incidental. So your value chain will change. You become more advisors, and then all these regulatory things are incidental. So to focus on change of that. And last but not the least, I think which is evolving, which will come in some time, is blockchain. Currently, it's very nascent, only in certain industries and areas we are seeing that. But the way it is going to evolve, I think blockchain is going to be a huge thing. Somebody has to look at it, understand, and then how do we make use cases out of that in our, whatever day-to-day functioning we are doing. So these are broader the areas which I think huge opportunity. And having said that, traditional areas, whether it is industry, whether it's practice itself is booming.
Yeah.
In traditional jobs also there will be a lot of opportunity.
Volumes are really increasing.
I agree.
The
The
growth
demand
is-
will be used there.
Yeah,
At the
yeah.
same time, somebody wants to do something new.
Yeah.
These are the newer areas which are,
Now, I'll give you a simple example in the industry side because I was working in an industry. So, even the finance industry, which is the private equity, venture capital, investment banking, there earlier CAs were not preferred in the PEVC front end roles and they were not even hired. But today, even the Blackstone, which is like the leading private equity fund of the world, out of the 12-member team, which is the junior analyst team, 5 of them are chartered accountants today.
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
earlier, this number was 0. Even like when it comes to venture capital funds and investment banks, like CAs are now being preferred, and there is an industrial trainee route where VC funds and investment banks are hiring CA industrial trainee at a subsidized cost, and then they are giving them the pre-placement offer.
Absolutely.
So
No,
that is
absolutely.
also something which is happening in the industry.
Clearly, I think so which is where the roles are evolving.
Yeah.
It's not typical those typical role which we used to play, both accounting or maybe taxation and some of those
Yeah,
stuff.
absolutely.
I think audit. Now it's really you can be. How do you contribute? So which is where some of these things are coming handy.
Yeah.
People are really seeing that analytical mind which we have as a chartered accountants, and I think we have been able to. If you can reflect that, we can contribute. I don't think organization, industry, or practice is limiting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what are some career mistakes you think people should avoid in their corporate career? Sushil, since you've had a very successful career and you are the CFO now of Aditya Birla Group, what are some mistakes according to you which people should avoid when they start their corporate journeys?
So some of these examples which I talked
Right.
about, I think you have to keep ethical mind for sure. I don't think you can give a benefit to any organization by doing a shortcut work, but in long term that will not help you as an individual and that will not help the organization. So
Right.
you have to have a clear demarcation of what is good and bad. And to me, a couple of examples which I talked about, speak up or early messaging are important issues. You don't mistake on some of those stuff. I think this is another piece which is related in some form. Whenever you see abnormal gain or loss, there is a time to dig deep. So again, in a simple way, and I think I also keep telling people that, and whether organization or even in personal life is simple. We complicate by overanalyzing that. So I think keep it simple. Don't overdo on anything, but try and kind of keep thinking that you have to be useful or contribute to the larger objective.
Yeah.
Because I think until you want to kind of get your personal goals ahead of organization goals, you will not be successful. So
Right.
I think we have to have a fair understanding of that, and which even sometimes people can say this whole work-life balance and so some of those words which we use in our life is important. I don't think family is not important in any manner, but you have to have a right balance there. You have to find a you have to strike a right balance there.
Right.
So then lots of things which you should not be doing it. I hate, personally speaking, I hate politics. So and I keep telling people, those who works with me, I said the only thing which I don't like is politics. So remain focused.
Yeah.
I also keep telling people in my own way that we all have a 24 hours, but have a work of 48 hours. What it does to you is, you know that you can't deliver 48 hours, but it keeps you on toes. It keeps you focused. It keeps you motivated, because you have to do, and which is where this whole negativity will not easily come in your mind, and which is where this whole politics also will not come, because you don't have a time to kind of get into those political
Right.
discussions. So I think you have to remain focused.
Right.
Do right things. You have to have a conviction what is right, and we all understand the right and wrong.
Yeah.
And the example which I gave, the guy who bought shirts and he gave it for laundry, I think he knew what is right or wrong, but he was not in position to differentiate that right or wrong.
Yeah.
So that's the responsibility which we have as an whether even that would be true for all these points, would be true for practice also.
Absolutely.
So I
Yeah.
don't think I'm making this as a general comment,
Absolutely.
and I think even why talk about organization, I'm saying even in personal life some of these things are absolutely applicable. So we have to have that empathy,
Yeah.
and the word which I use is act like as a owner, and try and kind of make sure that you are valuable and you are
Right.
contributing to the larger objectives.
Right, absolutely. How many hours would you both be working on a day-to-day basis today?
I think I put it maybe mine is not a right example, and but I spend a lot of time.
Got
spend
it.
a lot of time.
Okay.
It's a tightrope walk. Let me tell you, there's no right answer.
Yeah.
When there's work, there's work. For example, even in our firm, when there's audit season going on, April, May, June, there are no Saturdays, Sundays, this, that. At the same time, you compensate. So, see, one has to have the understanding whenever a person. So work-life balance comes up, but when work is there, work is there. You have to do it. There's no choice. You can't run away from it.
Yeah. So this is the last question, and this is on a lighter note. So if you were to go back to your early days when you started your CA journey, Sushilji, would you go for a practice, or Nilesh sir, would you go for a corporate job?
So I don't know. The only thing is I don't think I have any regret.
Yeah.
I think the role also has evolved as a chartered accountant, and unfortunately for me, I got into a place because, as I said somewhere in my early part of the discussion, that's the only job I've done, and one of the reason also is because you got so much of opportunity, because the group also is very, very diversified. Although I didn't go and work outside India, but we had an opportunity to go and work outside India. So I think the opportunity which I got, which is where I don't have a regret, roles have enhanced. I feel that I've learned a lot during this entire journey of mine, and I think I'm very happy. I'm very satisfied. And I as a person also, normally I'm positive person, and I keep thinking positive way. So I don't think I would easily say I have regrets. Thank you.
Right.
Same here, Kushal. If I look back, I think the practice would not have given me better in the way I'm placed today, whether it has been the initial years of practice, the grinding, the opportunity to serve the profession, the opportunity to be director in so many places, the opportunity to work with different people, including Sushil, in the sense, good people. And so I think I've been blessed. Let me be very honest and candid in saying that. So even I would be likely to do the same thing again. So, because we've been blessed in our own ways,
Right.
And Kushal, I don't want to not use that word. You should enjoy what you do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's another piece which I always keep saying to the people: don't worry what you do. You should enjoy.
Yeah.
The moment there is an enjoyment, you'll excel.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So whether practice hai ya job hai, you have to excel.
True.
Which is where the satisfaction will come, and satisfaction will come when you enjoy.
And then work doesn't seem as work as such.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
It's like just
Absolutely.
enjoyment
Exactly.
and passion.
So I think the whole enjoyment, you should feel fulfillment, you should feel pride, you should feel that you have done something. The achievement also should give you a lot more motivation. So I think this whole issue of paisa kitna hai, compensation kitna, they're all important. I don't think, but I talked about earlier in some form or other that yes, we have been appraised on a daily basis. So kahin aapko, someone is checking about you, what you do. This will come, reward will come. I don't think you would not.
Someone is observing you.
हाँ, और 19-20 हो सकता है. See,
sometimes it takes
little bit.
slightly longer.
You're doing what you like. थोड़ा बहुत कम भी मिला तो कोई फर्क नहीं है. It will take care in the long term. My only request to all the viewers is it will take care in the long term. Have that trust and belief in you. As Sushil said, do what you like. Money will take care of itself.
Yeah. I put it differently, like change is inevitable, so is success if you are patient, persistent and focused.
Yes.
That's my simple mantra. Thank you so much to the two
Just
of you.
one last, I have been benefited a lot by Vipassana meditation. So to the viewers, I would want to, sort of communicate that. Please try out Vipassana meditation. It's a 10-day course, completely free. Luckily, there's no cost. Only thing requiring your time. In life, there are a lot of, ups and downs. I was president of ICAI. People say, how can you be so down to earth? I've gone through some of the worst phases a person can go in life, but that time Vipassana has helped me. So very strong, recommendation to all who's viewing these. Please try it out. There's no cost. There's no religionism there. It is your own self-experiential learning there also, meditation. Please do that.
How did your life change before Vipassana and after Vipassana?
Substantially. I can just give a couple of examples. As I told you, my first Shibir when I did in 1989, I was very, very short-tempered. So short-tempered, of course. Even now I do get angry, but now it is more a show of anger. That time I used to get angry. I used to take 1 hour to unwind after, showing anger on any of my colleagues. But now I show angry. I know sometimes you just need to, but I'm not angry within. So that was one large differentiation. Second is I told you when you go up in life, you know that positions are temporary, so you need to take it with a lot of equanimity. There are some bad things happening to you in your life that also are temporary. So how nothing in life is permanent, whether it's good or bad. How to accept things equanimously is what Vipassana teaches. So that has helped me, in those type of situations.
Right. Wow.
So that helped me. When you're Federal Bank chairman, how do you sacrifice it? You know that position is temporary. At the most, I could have done one more year. It's very easy to take those calls if you have done that. So that's where it is.
And I assume there is no right age to do Vipassana. Like
Earlier you do the
at
better.
Earliest possible.
Earlier you do the better.
Because these learnings will help you in your own part of journey.
Right.
So I think
Exactly.
early you do is better.
Yeah.
And I think you have to be observant and you have to be ready to learn all the time. So I know again, Kushal, I'm going back my audit days, and Nilesh bhai, I was doing audit of IFCI those days. IFCI was another large financial institution.
Yeah.
So what is the full form?
Industrial Financial Corporation
Okay.
of
Okay.
Like IDBI, it was one of the biggest term lending institutions.
Got it.
So IFCI, I was doing audit, and we had gone to meet chairman those days. Mr. Dower was used to be the chairman, and again, when you're doing CA, you're young, and some of those things remains in your mind. And post meeting, he got up, and he didn't have one hand, and he went up to his cabin's door, and he opened up door, and he allowed us to come. So I was really surprised. I was, what the hell? He's bloody chairman of such a large institution, and we are the young people. There's no reason for him to come to cabin's gate and open it for us.
Wow.
And with one hand, he didn't have one hand. I was really amazed. And this again, that learning for me remains in my mind. You have to be humiliated. You have to have that humility. Chairman वो ऐसे नहीं बन जाते हैं. And this I see with our chairman, the level of patience he has, the level of humility, I can't describe.
Yeah.
He's a man. You have to keep learning. You can learn all the time from him, various things. And it's not just because he's a chairman of the group, but genuinely he's a person who will teach you all the time.
Yeah.
I'll just share my recent experience with the chairman of the Aditya Birla Group. I had the occasion to receive him in the Bombay Chartered Society's 75 years Reimagine conference. He was the chief guest, and as happens, so he was very particular to time. So he was there by I think 3:15 or 20. Geo Center, there's a large lift, and the VIP room is just on the opposite side. So we requested we can go in a buggy. He walked number one, the humility. So he could chat up on the way. In the meeting room, the 15-20 people, so he patiently interacted with each and every one. The president of Bombay Chartered Society, a lot of people were there.
Yeah.
Went onto the dais. Before in the three speakers, normally I would have believed there should be one speaker and the chairman should have spoken, but there were three speakers, but he had the patience, he didn't lose it.
No.
And he had a very important board meeting, I think at 4:30,
Yeah.
one of the largest companies of the group.
Yeah.
And after his session was over, he was walking out, there was a huge crowd outside, we requested him, again he started walking, but after some time we felt if he keeps interacting, he'll miss his board meeting. There was a whole idea, no
My God.
disrespect to the members there.
Yeah.
So that also, he spent almost, I think, 2.5 hours for the whole program.
Yeah.
After a few days, I met him again for the committee of members in industry program, where he was given the Hall of Fame award,
Yeah.
the Lifetime Achievement Award. And I sort of told him, so that day you were very patient, and I liked it. So he didn't carry an air or an ego or otherwise a person who's each second is so valuable.
Yeah.
So just to sort of corroborate.
Absolutely.
No, absolutely. And in fact, I have gotten to know that he also in the ICAI, that same function, the chairman of the committee had mentioned that he still pays the membership fees of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India every year, and that is something which is worth telling everyone, because a lot of people don't pay their membership fees and they're like कि क्या करना है pay करके, अभी हो गया CA बन गए degree तो मिल जाएगी, but it's very important to do that.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you so much once again. I hope you enjoyed, and thanks a lot. I am very sure everyone's going to love this, and a bunch of insights, abundance of knowledge. Thank you so much. I'm sure people would want a second episode of this podcast also. But thank you so much once again. I hope I could do justice to your time.
We
Yeah, it
loved
was a pleasure.
it, Kushal. Yeah. We enjoyed it equally.